Hey everybody, and welcome to the live stream. I see a few people have already made it. John Coopy's up in here. FPV Avery. FPV Avery's going flying though. I'm not flying today. It's cold where I'm at. Chris Quad. I see you three in here already. My wife is in here, for the Ask Me Anything portion of this video, so she can correct the answers I give you. Yeah, it is. It's like 30 degrees out here in Texas, and drizzling, and windy, and I'm not happy about that. I'm out here in my garage, freezing to death to be on this live stream with you guys. So if you see me shaking, that is why. Anyway, today is just going to be an Ask Me Anything live stream. I just want to take your questions. I will give you answers. We're also going to do a few other things. I want to look at some new products because I like to occasionally peruse the new product categories from a few of my favorite sites. And then I'm also going to look at some comments that are left on YouTube. I'll do some live answering of comments. I think it's a pretty cool idea to see what you guys write during the week when I'm not live and doing things, and then reply to your comments on a live stream. Yeah, that way you can you get some exposure, and I get to talk about what I say in the comments, because usually it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I might be on the toilet when I reply to your comment. That's normally how it goes, but we'll do it on live stream just because. I see more people are in here. Maddie, what's up? Dixie McGee, Morton Upshot. 3D Create, Walksnail Goggles X thoughts. Yes, I'm going to get there, 3D Create. Don't you worry. Matty ORC says it's 51 and rain in Massachusetts. So, yeah, it's 30 and drizzling here. And it occasionally looks like flurries outside. And the roads are starting to get icy. So, in Texas, we aren't supposed to get this weather, but we are getting it. That's for sure. That is for sure. 3D Create's from Utah. I bet it's cold in Utah right now. What's up, Trey Cook? Fun per Volt. Bot Grinder. What's up, Bot? Trey Cook says he got his Grinderino finish yesterday. Did a test flight, about to go take it on his first official rip after I put Blue Jay on the ESC. Yeah, you got to have Blue Jay, man. I have been having a lot of fun with my Grinderino. I flew it before the weather turned bad this week. It is a hell of a quad. Actually, it flew a lot better than I thought it would for the weight, especially with these big old freaking fists on there. But I do have some giant motors, and unfortunately, it's Betaflight 4.5 on this AIO. It's the Axis Flying Argus F7 AIO. So it came with 4.5 on it, and OSD does not apparently work. So I have no OSD. I just went for it with no pack voltage and cut it off at like 2 minutes to make sure I didn't ruin my pack. But that thing has been hella fun. I bet you're going to have a lot of fun with yours, Trey. Monkey D, Bird Fam. Bot Grinder said it was like 75 last night there. And yeah, it was... I don't know, yesterday it was probably in the 50s here, and then it just swooped on in, and now it's 30. All right. Yeah, Trey weighs over 400 grams on his Grinderino. Yeah, this one is, I think I clocked in at like 320-ish. 320-ish, which is not bad, honestly. It's not bad for what it's made for. It is not going to be a sub 250 quad. That is a basher. I thought I was going to try to go sub 250 on it. Nah, we're not going to do sub 250. That's what this gen is going to be for. It's going to be a sub 250 O3 quad. When I want to fly sub 250, I'll do that. But when I want to bash the crap out of it, it's going to be the Grinderino for sure. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, I actually did I post it? I didn't post it. It was for patrons only. I forgot about it being for patrons only. My first flight on the Grinderino. In fact, I can show you that. Hold on a minute, and I will go get it. I will dig that up so you can see my first flight on the Grinderino. I forgot I did that as a patrons only video. The patrons get special things because they're patrons. Let's see. Where did I put it? I put it here. I'm going to share the video as a video because that makes sense to you, I'm sure. Okay, video file. Let me dig up this video file real quick. It is somewhere on my computer in the depths of my temporary files. Where did I put this thing? Where did I put my stuff? Maybe I don't have it on here. Well, fine. I will go dig it up elsewhere. Anyway, while I'm doing that, let me go to my Patreon. Let's see who else is jumping in on the stream. Susan Bell, my daughter. Her name is not Susan. She pretends to be Susan Bell. Blackout FPV, William Tam. Awesome. Dixie McGee. If you put a chameleon in a room full of mirrors, what color would it turn? Chameleons are going to be naturally greenish brown, so I assume it'll turn greenish brown inside of itself. I don't know. That's a good question. That's a really good question. That's my answer. Greenish brown. How is that? All right, hold on. Share this tab instead. Let me get back to my sharing stuff. This tab instead. I'm going to go to this. Add to stage. There we go. Here's my first flight on the Grinderino. And I can't see your comments, by the way, but this is me flying it. This is the first pack that I ever flew on it. This is, of course, without voltage in my OSD because I have no OSD because 4.5 kept me from having it. But I was just piddling around here, having fun, seeing what it would do. It flies really well, really, really well, especially for the weight. But I like a quad with a little bit more weight. And of course, I'm going to spang it because that's how I fly. So I got to do the flippies and the floppies. I'm not really going too low to the ground because I hadn't figured out the motor response yet. This is, of course, the first pack I've flown on it. But I figure if you can't send it a little bit on the first pack, what are you doing? So, yeah, it was a nice day out when I did this. Before it started raining, it rained right after, directly after this. Yeah. It's a really, really good quad. Really, really good quad. I saved myself from a little crash there. So it has plenty of power. Yeah, it's a really good build. I'd highly recommend the motors too. They're 1507, 1506, RCM Power 1506 at 3000 kV on 6S. All day, man. Plenty of response and snap, and you can see that I can pull out of snap moves really easily with this because it's got so much thrust. And it sounded like a little whistle. It wasn't even annoying, but it's got a lot of agility for its size. And you can see the pink little fists in the view. It's awesome. Trying to figure out how to play with that tree more. It has a lot of dangly branches. And I hadn't quite figured out what I want to do with it. Almost ran into the trampoline there. Going around my well house. I think in a minute I'm going to do a full throttle pull. So this is full throttle from back to front. Boo! Yep. You can get it. You can get it real good. It's a nice quad. I really enjoy it. So yeah, anyway, that was my first flight on the Grinderino. The patrons saw that like a week ago. So if you wanted to see it early. Blackout FPV, what microphone do you use for streams and video recording? I use this one. This is the Elgato Wave 3. I like it. I also have a HyperX Quadcast that I like, but I like the Wave 3 better. Has better noise rejection, better filtering and stuff. I do use some of the filtering. It has software. So yeah. 3D create mirrors are actually very slightly green. Yeah. So I guess greenish brown would qualify as the color a chameleon would turn in sight of all mirror. Nickel Sticks, what's up? You're in here now. Who else did I miss? Who did I miss? Let us be free to fly. Put my daughter on to read comments. No, she's too busy playing Roblox or like raiding the pantry. That's what she does. That's how she spends her time. Morton Upshot, what's the all-up weight on that guy? About 320 grams with a 550 milliamp hour 6S pack. Somewhere in there. Trey Cook put 1804 on yours. 1804. I think you're going to be somewhere near the stator size of a 1506. So that's pretty close. Look, the feel will be pretty close. I like a taller, less round motor. I like the torque. So I went with the 1506 and the 3000 kV just because 6S. It's a little bit more than I need, but Deadwater 87's in here. What's a good Dead Cat 3.5 inch frame I can use an O3 on? A Dead Cat 3.5 inch frame. Ooh, that's going to be tough. I'd have to go looking for that. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a good Dead Cat 3.5. Most of the 3.5s I can think of are going to be TrueX or Squished X. Dead Cat's going to... Now, if you're specifically wanting something to just not be inside of the O3, but you don't mind having a TrueX, the AOS can do it. The AOS 3.5. You can get or print cam plates to go out further. There are a lot of ways. Even on regular 3.5-inch frames, something like the Apex 3.5, you can get that cam out further. It's going to be less protected, though. But as far as a dead cat itself, I'd have to go looking. I don't know who's making a dead cat 3.5-inch currently at the moment. All right. What else is in here? We're going to get back to the Avatar goggles in a minute because that's a big topic. I'll give you my thoughts on the Avatar goggles. Who else has questions? Dixie McGee again. If you get scared half to death twice, can you be considered actually dead? No, because you never made it all the way in the first place. You've only been halfway there. In either instance, they don't add up. They're not cumulative. You're not cumulatively dead. Trey Cook, 1300 mAh battery, though. That's a lot of my weight. Oh, okay. 1300 mAh battery. I get why you're up over 400 grams. But you can fly for like 12 minutes, though. So, 12 minutes. Yeah, Deadwater, you just want props. You just don't want props in view for the dead cat. Yeah, if you want to hit me up on Discord and send me a PM, I will look around when I get a little bit. It might be tomorrow. And see what I think. I haven't looked for a dead cat 3.5 in a long time. I'm sure someone is making it. I don't know if it's going to be a typical manufacturer, but I can bet I can find something out there if you really want a dead cat. Or I can definitely send you some things where the O3 is out far enough. The Quadmula 3.5, the Siren 3.5 can have no props in view and no standoffs in view if you do it right. So that's an option, but there are lots of other ones with printable cam plates or printable cam mounts that will get your camera out in front of the arms. So yeah, if you're on Discord, hit me in the Discord with a PM and I will try to remember to write you back over there. Yeah, let us be free to fly. You don't have to have a DC for 3.5-inch. Yeah, you don't have to. A lot of 3.5-inch frames, though, obviously the Grinderino 3.5. I saw my props in view just because where the arms are, but this is a true X. If it was a squished X, it'd be a little bit different. The Quadmula 3-inch, if you're not minding a 3-inch, won't have that problem either. Or you could always go with a Cine Whoop. I'm about to do a review on the SpeedyBee Master 35 here. That is a really good frame, incredibly difficult to build though, but definitely no props in view of this if you don't mind flying a Cine Whoop. But if you're going to do something with freestyle, that's not really much of a freestyle beast, unfortunately. If you just want a cinematic though, those are always better. Blackout FPV, what kind of diversity setup would you recommend for the SkyZone O4L? I'm using 2 SteadyView modules. So you're using SteadyView X. So that's not really, it's diversity on top of mixing. So with SteadyView X, are you talking about antennas or are you talking about configuration? Because you're going to be in SteadyView X mode if you're running 2 SteadyView modules. But as far as antennas go, what I would do is I would put an Omni. I would probably go TrueRC just because I really like TrueRC's Omnis. They have an expensive line and a cheaper line of Omnis. I would get an Omni. I would make it probably 4 to 6 inches tall, so it's up above your head. I would put that on each module, and then I would probably do something with a patch antenna, like their X-Air. Not the X-Air 2, not the doubles, just the singles. That's probably where I would go with it as far as antenna setup. But you're going to be limited in the configuration modes because you're going to be in SteadyView X. So that is what that's for, though. If you didn't know, the SteadyView X mode will use both those modules at once. That's the only mode that will. Let us be free to fly. Dead cat flies funny. It does sometimes. Dead cats do sometimes fly funny. So, Dixie McGee, who coined the phrase? I'm sure it's someone unrelated to coin making. That's as much as I know. Abraham Lincoln. My daughter says Abraham Lincoln did it. I will tell you, history is not her best subject. So you take that with a large grain of salt. Demian Villanueva, cheers from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Awesome. Argentina. I bet the weather's nice right now in Argentina. It's not 30 degrees and drizzly. Yeah, it's definitely 30 degrees and drizzly here. I am freezing my nards off here in the garage, but I'm going to keep doing it. Okay, more an upshot. I want to rebuild my first quad, a Recon 3 Lion, replacing the Diamond F4 FR Sky and putting in Walksnail. Is a 5 amp ESC cutting it close with 1202.5 3-inch blades? Yes, it is. I run 1202.5 3-inch bi blades on a 15 amp ESC. I pull about 8 amps. So there is that. Of course, I do it on 2S. That's going to depend on your voltage. You could probably get away with it on 3S, but then you're adding a lot of weight. I don't know that I would do that. Plus, your Lion is not going to be able to put out a lot of amps, so you're going to have to keep that thing super lightweight. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be rough with a 5 amp, but yeah, you're probably safe with your Lion. I don't know what I'd pick in there. I would probably go for something like the Darwin 15 amp AIO. It's affordable, and the 15 amps rating has been sufficient. I also think that Beta FPV, although it is Beta FPV, take that as you will. They have a 15 or a 12 amp AIO that I might look at for that same use case. But you're going to have a hard time with anything but bi blades on 1202.5s in that kind of size. So if you're running on tri blades, I would think possibly bi blades. I'd go that direction with it. Yeah, more than upshot. I want to use an F405 so I have the UARTs. Yeah, I don't remember if the Darwin has a 405. I'm pretty sure the Beta FPV has a F411, so you're going to be 2 UARTs max. But I think the Darwin might have 4. They're hard to get to. The solder pads for that Darwin board are not fun to get. Some of them are between little ICs, and you got to tuck a wire in there. But you can get them. You're just going to have to be meticulous with your solder job. For sure. Jeremy Stone, thanks again for your awesome videos. You're very welcome, Jeremy Stone. I love making the videos. Not when it's cold out, though. I'm going to have to come out here and shoot a video on this SpeedyBee 3.5 inch, and I'm not looking forward to it because it's freaking freezing. Let us be free. I'm trying to get Maple Wireless to make antennas for the new X goggles. I wouldn't be surprised if they would. I mean, they target that market with the Quad Omni for DJI, so it would make sense. And we'll get to those goggles in a second. I'm definitely I have the whole page up about them right now. So we'll get to them. I just wanted to get through some of the questions first because, it's an Ask Me Anything. Fun per volt. Remember, it's warming in New Zealand and XJet grows stronger. He feeds off the souls of regulators. I love XJet, though. He's a cool guy. I'd hang out with him. Dixie McGee, if your son were to become a priest, would you have to call him father? Yes. He would have earned that title via his education. He would be father-son. I don't think he's going to do that, though, because I know that boy and they would kick him straight out of that school. Yeah. 3D Create says, I don't know if Maple antennas would work very well for Walksnail. It depends. It depends on what you're doing. Maple's big play is that they do the whole left-hand, right-hand thing. They have other options, I believe, that are all one polarization. But you can get the new it's V2 with 2 antennas, the V2 VTX from Walksnail with 2 antennas, and you could run a left and a right if you wanted to and do the exact same thing they were doing with DJI. So it's possible. You'd have to buy specialized antennas and couldn't use any of the stuff that comes in the box. But you could do it if you really wanted to. All right. Demian, let's go with my issue. I wasn't able to share DJI V2 goggles footage, Cadix Vista, through public channel to Goggles V2, currently using with O3. Aren't they compatible? I have not gotten it to work that way. I have been able to see footage from an O3 in my V2 goggles and from my wife's Avata in my V2 goggles, but I have not been able to see V2 footage to the Goggles 2. And I think the reason for that is because when you get the Vista up to the right firmware to be able to actually bind and use directly with the Goggles 2, it is no longer compatible with the V2 goggles. So if you have it up enough on firmware to be able to see it, then you wouldn't be able to see it in your V2s. So I don't know for sure. I haven't seen it written on paper, but I would say based on my experience and that no. If you are running a Vista on your V2 goggles, your Goggles 2 won't be able to see it. However, if you're running it on your Goggles 2, for some reason your Vista still can, or your V2s still can. But I would say it's incompatible in that direction. The other direction seems to work. Jeremy Stone's in New Mexico or Minnesota. I read M and N backwards, buddy. It's getting pretty cold here now too. Yeah, I don't want it anymore. Come take it away from me. I don't want this cold. I will say though, the cold is cheaper because it's cheaper to run a gas heater than it is to run the air conditioner in the summertime here in Texas. So FPV Avery, is your favorite food actually bacon or bacon is among my favorite foods. Yeah. Some of my other favorite foods include cottage cheese. Yep, I'm that kind of white guy. String cheese, anything with cheese, mozzarella sticks, that kind of stuff, and pizza because, I like garbage. I like to put garbage right in my garbage hole. That's the kind of food I enjoy. I'm pretty basic. When it comes to that, I'm pretty basic. Yeah. Yeah, 3D Create. Goggles 2 don't support share mode, I believe. They don't. But I have shared, like I said, O3 and Avata footage with my V2s because I let my son watch the V2s while my wife is flying her Avata or I'm flying an O3. So I do know that works, or at least it did about 6 months ago last time I did it. But I don't think so on Vistas, for sure. Let Us Be Free loves their Maple Wireless Pro. They drop out differently. I've heard the same thing. Orlock on the Discord has Maple antennas, and he really enjoys them. I have not picked them up. I just can't spend that kind of money on a set of antennas like that and then make everything fit with it because I'd fly more than DJI. But Orlock swears by them, so I don't think you're alone there. Oh, Damian says both goggles are V2. Yes, you should be able to share V2 to V2. That is for sure. If they're both V2, not G2, then yes, you should be able to see and share footage. I would make sure that both sets of goggles are on the same version of firmware along with the Vista, because it could be a firmware problem at that point. Could be they're just incompatible versions of firmware. Sorry, I read that wrong. I thought you said Goggles 2 for one of them. Trying to scroll down here. FPV Avery, you've ruined it with cottage cheese. Other than that, I was with you. Yeah, no, I love cottage cheese, man. But it can't be low-fat bull crap, and it's got to be large curd. I like large curd cottage cheese, and I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of my love for large curd cottage cheese. If you don't like it, though, that's okay. I get it. It's not a lot of people do. But I don't do the putting fruit in it. Don't you put fruit in my cottage cheese. A little bit of black pepper, sure. But we're not putting peaches in that crap. That is not happening. I'm not about that. Monkey D mentioned pizza. You should come visit the East Coast because NYC and J Philly pizza. I'm sure. We have a couple of good pizza places here, but I moved like 20 minutes away from them and they don't deliver anymore. And I'm too cheap to pay for pizza. So most of the pizza I eat comes from a box at the Walmart. Yeah. My wife does make pizza. Like she'll make a handmade pizza though. That's really good. But if it's bought pizza, it's probably like pizza in the box from Wally World. Dixie McGee, how do you tell when you've run out of invisible ink? You've either also run out of lemon juice or you don't have any UV light. If you had those things, you would know when you did it. Light sail, FPV. I'm assuming you're asking if I like FPV racing. I do like FPV racing. I prefer micro racing. I like to race micros. I don't really like to race 5-inch. I mean, I've done gates and stuff, but I think micro tracks are so much cooler. So I like to race micros. I competed in the We Bleed FPV Sim Series my first year in FPV, and I think my team placed second. And in my team, like total rankings, I think I placed fourth out of like 80 people. I didn't do too bad, but I practiced really hard. I spent hours and hours and hours in the simulator flying those tracks, and it was not easy. But I learned a lot, and I recommend everybody try a little racing. You can learn a lot of things by trying a little racing. Let Us Be Free. We need bacon lipos, and when you crack them open, they smell like bacon. Yes. Instead of the sweet smell of electrolyte, you get the savory smell of greasy bacon. Call Me Alex says, I want to build a 3.5-inch drone, Volador, and I want to use the Emax Eco 2004 3000 kV. Is it possible to use the SpeedyBee F4 Mini 35 amp stack to build this, or is the amp rating too low? It is perfectly usable. perfectly. You don't have to be a crazy person like me and run a 55 amp. The reason I run a 55 amp is because I never want it to break, ever. In 2004s, I'm probably pulling like 18-ish amps. So 35 is plenty more. As long as, I'm building mine to be able to turtle mode out of anything. And if I want to slap a 300-gram pack on the back and it carry that weight, it won't complain about it. But if you're just building it to fly like a normal quad, then that's perfectly fine. The 35 amp rating is perfectly good. And that's a good pick because it's pretty reasonable as far as cost. 3D Create likes the cottage cheese in Walmart. That is the best cottage cheese, 3D Create. The best cottage cheese is the Walmart cottage cheese. My wife has bought the HEB cottage cheese. I don't know where else she's bought it, but I hate all of them except for the Walmart. The other ones taste like rubber. I don't know what it is, but the Walmart cottage cheese, the large curd, full fat. Oh, now you got me wanting some cottage cheese. This whole thing, I should have brought a tub of cottage cheese. Next live stream, I might have to do it, and I'll eat it in front of you all. You can hear me smacking it around. Oh, but you said lasagna. How did Walmart get corrected to lasagna? I thought you meant you liked the Walmart cottage cheese. Now I'm disappointed. Now it's just the cottage cheese and lasagna. That's not cottage cheese though. The cottage cheese in lasagna is it's a different kind of cheese. I've forgotten the kind of cheese it is, but it's like a crumbly cheese. I am so far behind. Damien, too much food speaking. I will cut my pizza with a prop. Do it. They have props called pizza cutters. It can happen. He sent a super sticker. Thank you, Dixie McGee. I appreciate that. I don't get to see the stickers, though. In my version of the chat, it's all filtered out. Here. Chris, 20 millimeter motors on a 3.5. I get great climb out with the Emax 1404s with 10 gram Walksnail HD Pro camera. Yeah, it depends on the weight. 1404s are fine if you're going to fly 150, 160 gram, 3.5 inch. Where you want something bigger is on the bigger boys. Like with my other over here 3-ish inch quad weighs 300-ish grams. So 2004s run great on it. On the Grinderino, I have 1507s, which are bigger than a 1404 with 3000 kV because it weighs more. And when it weighs more, you need more prop response because you need to run stiffer props. So, yeah, if you're running a normal, like, toothpicky feeling 3.5 inch build, 1404s are great. I have a 4-inch bi-blade build on 1404s. So it's pretty good too. But I do like bigger motors. I'm all about the bigger motors because I am all about the heavier quads. FPV Avery, it's ricotta. That's the cheese I'm talking about, the ricotta cheese. My daughter said she hated ricotta for forever. Now she seems to like it. I have no idea what she's actually about. But I love ricotta cheese. My daughter is now coming in here. What is she doing? What are you doing, Susan?
Wrap something to satisfy your cheese.
That's not cheese.
We didn't have any cheese.
That's not cheese, though. I mean, I'll eat them, but it's not cheese.
We did not have any cheese. We looked in the fridge.
I know. I already looked. I'd have ate it if we had it. Anyway, sorry, guys. She brought me pumpkins.
Love you.
How many of you hate these? How many of you hate these pumpkins? I love you too, Pepe. How many of you hate these pumpkins? They're really good. That's the best part of Halloween, is the pumpkin candies. Chris, it's a Volador 3.5, so halfway between toothpick and tank. Yes. I don't like 1404s on a 3.5. I'm just going to be that person. I'm not a big fan. Let us be free 2203.5 on a 3.5. That can be done. I have some 2203.5s that I planned on putting on a 3.5, but they wound up being the wrong mounting pattern, so I didn't. More than upshot. Thank her and just eat them. I am eating them. Chris doesn't run an action cam. Yeah. So, yeah, that's true. Vitterfly, how dare you? How dare I what, Vitterfly? How dare I what? Eat these on camera? I'm going to do it because they're good. The worst part of the candy corn bag, Dixie McGee. Well, that's the best part, man. It's like when it lumps together and makes a weirdly misshapen lump of candy corn. The best. Okay, we are going to talk about the goggles. So, we're talking about the Goggles X from Walksnail. They're on pre-order, $458, kind of on the high end, and they've done a lot of things to them. So if you don't know what they are, it's Walksnail's newest version of their Avatar series goggles. And they've done a lot of things to make them different, other than just the red light, right? If you weren't familiar with their older goggles, they had partnered with Fat Shark to kind of design the optics and things. And Fat Shark made their own, and then Walksnail made their own. In this case, Walksnail's making it all. So as far as I know, Fat Shark's not involved in these. Take that as you will, if that's good for you or not. You can kind of see the Fat Shark version of the old goggles here. I don't know why you would buy these, the props, and these goggles frequently in the same order. Race Day Quad seems to think people do that, but I don't know about that. Anyway, they've done a bunch of stuff to these. They have a removable VRX bay, which that's kind of cool. They have new optics with the ability to put in corrective lenses for things like astigmatism, which is important for me because I have astigmatism. And they have relocated the mounting points for their antennas, more like what DJI had on the V2 goggles. They also have a removable front plate where that red strip is, and things like patch antennas can be molded and fit in there, which is kind of cool. And they have released the ability to create those on your own. So they're not holding that hostage behind some kind of paywall. So people can make all kinds of cool modules and stuff. As far as the optics go, they seem to be a little bit better than the other ones. They say the foam is a better upgrade. I think they made a lot of good choices here. A lot of people are dogging them. I think they look okay. Tell me what you think. Do you think they look okay? I'm not an unfan of the design. A lot of people think they're ugly. I don't know. I think they're fine. I think they look kind of like the DJI Goggles 2, only with a little bit more angular shape, which I kind of like. People also thought the Orca goggles were stupid because of the way they look. They were actually really great goggles. Orca just doesn't keep up with any technology. Anyway, so we'll go through down here. Oh, look, there's Nick Burns wearing them. Of course he would change it blue. I love Nick Burns. And Mads Tech. They've already had them. I do not have a set. I've not been offered a set. There's a really good chance I'll never see a set. So you know. They did this too. They added an HDMI in and out, which is nice, along with the SD card and an AV in. So you can now put analog on them. I will get to why I'm disappointed by that in a second. They have customizable front plates. So you see they have the red front plate here. And over here, they have a patch antenna front plate where they've taken the front plate off. The patch antenna still attaches to the antenna mount, but it lives inside of the front of the goggles instead of smacking on there, which is nice. John Coopy, the LED faceplate, I think, makes it look amateurish, but if you can replace that and shut it off, yeah, right. I would absolutely smack a patch antenna in the front of that thing. Absolutely. And let us be free. Walksnail is always going to be a step behind DJI when they come out with open. Yeah, there was chasing DJI a little bit, but DJI has a lot more money and engineers than Walksnail does. So that makes total sense. Let's see. Let's see what else. This is the removable VRX portion, so you can pop the top off and change out the VRX. Now, that doesn't mean at the moment that you can like slap an HD0 VRX in there. That is not how it works. And specifically with HD0, the components inside of the HD0 goggles actually run the OLEDs too. So it's not like they can just make a board out of one goggle to smack into another goggle and you could just own one set and run both systems. Plus, it's not in its own enclosed case. So it's just a board in there. You do have to pop this thing off, take it out. There are connectors. That's not something you could really do in the field. Sure, you can. But are you going to do that in the field? Probably not. But it is nice that you can own one set of Walksnail goggles, and every time they iterate on the hardware, you can upgrade. That's supposedly the idea. At the moment, I don't know. There's no other VRX hardware that I know of at the moment, so we don't really have anything to put in there. But there might be down the road. So that's a cool feature. And this is the rest of the feature set, you know, IPD, infrared sensing. I have no idea. Oh, I do have an idea what that means. They just said it weird. Originally, people asked me if that meant it had some kind of remote control. No, it has a little thing right here in your forehead, so it knows when you have the goggles on and off. That's all. But they have the high frame rate. They have OLEDs. They have all the good things. 1080p max resolution. All that stuff. The thing that really bothers me, though, about it is the AV-in, because they said it's an all-in-one goggle. And if you've ever used AV-in on something like the V2 DJI goggles, it's not really great. You can't control the module with the goggle buttons. You have to look at it. Like if you have a rapid fire and you want to change the channel, you've got to press the buttons on the front of the goggle and then listen for it. And I bet you could figure it out in time. But a lot of times you're going to have to take them off and look at the little OLED on the screen and see which channel you're on. Whereas something like my HD0 goggles that are really all-in-one goggles have a module bay that I can smack a module into, and I can use the buttons of the goggles to control the module and see it all in my OSD, which is nice. But yeah, that's my issue with their all-in-one. Plus, you can't really that bay for the VRX is really adaptable. We'll see if other brands conform to it. I mean, Orca was supposed to have this thing in the front with a little connector that HD0 was going to make a thing for. That never panned. We'll see what this does. Maybe it'll be different. Maybe it'll be awesome. Like I said, I'm not going to buy a set. They're probably never going to send me a set. So don't expect a review from me on them. But that's my thoughts. I think they did a good job of upgrading the goggle. I think you get, I don't know, slightly more than you would on the other older style goggles. I don't mind the design. I like that you can smack a patch antenna in the front. I do wish it had an analog module bay adapter to actually control an analog module. But all in all, I think it's a good thing. I'm happy to see Walksnail move forward with other hardware. It's they've been building a lot of VTXs, but it's really nice to see a new receiver set come out. And hopefully you don't have to buy another one. You can just buy another board when they upgrade the hardware down the road. John Coopy, do we know that the digital input on Walksnail would actually fully allow other systems to plug into it? Would be funky if there was some kind of DRM. I don't know, but I find it unlikely that it would be DRM locked. Doesn't seem like a thing Walksnail would do. Of course, you know, you never can tell. But I'm pretty sure it's just open HDMI standards. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll let you smack anything you want in there. Pink Kajau, on a race quad, does putting the battery towards the front actually help? Toward the front, it depends on your distribution and center of gravity. Race quads are like really steep. So if you want your center of gravity to be directly under the pendulum point of a quad, I'm going to put my hand sideways. If you put it back here where, let's say that's the middle of the quad and you pendulum it, your center of gravity is actually toward the rear. But if you put your pack more toward the front, your center of gravity is more toward the center of the quad in that angle. And you will actually benefit a little bit in your roll axis because you're spending so much time pitch forward. Is it worth it? I don't know. But that is why it's done. So it's worth trying. I'm not a huge fan of underslung batteries in the first place. But yeah, Chris says the larger optics, talking about the Goggles X again, that enable you to see the whole screen without losing the corners sold me. I was disappointed in the Goggles 2, the DJI ones, because you couldn't see the edges. I'm pretty sure John Cuppy had that experience as well. I remember seeing the video from him on it. I have since adjusted them to where I can, but it was not a native thing. It did not come out of the box that way. And I am glad to hear these do. Of course, like I said, I haven't had my eyes in them, so I can't confirm that, but other people have. And if that's what they're saying, especially like Mads Tech, you know, if he's saying that it's, you know, legit, I trust Mads Tech. He's not paid by any vendors. So yeah. Chris said, Caddx is making a bay to fit standard analog VRXs. Yeah, but you probably have to pop your, digital module out if it's going to go up top. Otherwise, they're going to make a bay to hold it, but it's still going to have to come in over that AV in, and that's not going to allow the correct pin headers to control the module. And the module control is the big thing for me. I don't want to take my goggles off to read the OLED. I want to do it all in the OSD. I never want to have to look at that module, especially if you're doing something like the new SkyZone analog modules. Some of them do have OLEDs and some don't. If you have something completely without an OLED, you can't really tell what channel you're on if you're just interacting with it externally. So it's nice to have all that come up in the OSD, and you can't really do that with the AVN, unfortunately. The rapid fire does let you do a little bit more because it'll do its own OSD and tell you what's going on. But some other ones, you know, not everybody's going to spend $100 on a rapid fire module. So I wish they had put a bay with the full pin header set. What's up, War Machine? Good to see you in here. Prop Butcher. Where's a good place to sell analog gear? It's kind of tough. There used to be a place called FPV Exchange. I don't know if FPV Exchange is still a thing. It had been down for forever. Let's see, is FPV Exchange still happening? Yep, it's gone. So now you're limited to like Facebook forums, Facebook sales posts. This is going to be hard. I can't give you a specific place then for that, unfortunately. I have a buy and sell or a trading post section on my Discord where a lot of people do that, but it gets a little bit noisy because it's really hard to manage sale items in Discord. But it's just going to be those one-off places. Unfortunately, FPV Exchange would have been a great option, but yeah, they seem to have gone down a few months back. I don't know what happened to it. What's up, Bitterroot? Good to see you. John Cuppy. Yeah, I'm one of the biggest bitches about Goggle 2 optics. I remember that video very much. I remember seeing it about the same time I got my Goggles 2 for my wife, for her Avata. I had watched your video like right before they came in. So Borked Bits is here. Nasty FPV, what's up? "3D Create, most analog modules display info on the analog signal." Yeah, luckily, but it is nicer to interact with the same buttons that are on the goggle. Yeah, I mean, I get why they did it, but they could have done the same thing HD0 did and put a better analog interface in with better deinterlacing and had the leg up on that. Because people are still going to fly analog. I am a firm believer that analog is never going to go away. No matter how much digital we get, it's still going to never go away. And Caddx makes analog gear. So if they put better support for analog into their goggles, people would more readily buy into their digital system as well as spend money on their analog products. I mean, it's a win-win, and it probably would not take a whole lot of external engineering to do because they are very good at analog. They've been doing that for a long time. Chris says RC groups for selling your analog gear. That's good. RC groups. Yep. It's a forum. I spent a little bit of time over there. And that is probably a reasonably good place to sell. PH Padawan. How can I connect my flight controller FS16 to a simulator on my PC? I'm pretty sure you mean your radio by that. How do you connect that to a computer? Oh man, that's going to be a FlySky. Yeah, let me see. Not SH. It'd be helpful if I type the right thing in my web browser. Let me look up this real quick because I haven't looked at one of these in a while. I don't know if this has a USB. I feel like it doesn't. It doesn't have USB. So your best bet is likely what you can do. This is a way we used to do it back in the old day. Before a lot of things supported USB, you can bind your FlySky radio to your FlySky quad. So if your quad works with your radio, that's great. You can plug the USB of your quad into your computer. And then there's actually a way to utilize your quad as the receiver. So your FlySky receiver through your flight controller, through Betaflight over USB into the simulator. That is a pain. And you do have to power your quad on the entire time. That is probably the best way, honestly, unfortunately. And I don't have an article for that offhand, but if you start Google searching for how to use Betaflight as simulator receiver, you'll probably find something from someone like Oscar Liang that has done it for years and years and can walk you through it very simply. But that is the direction I would take it. I did that for a little while with my Tinyhawk 2 whenever I had FR Sky. So I had an FR Sky radio and my Tinyhawk 2, and I used my Tinyhawk as the receiver for a sim. It's got a little bit of latency, but it does work. Recreate. I'm angry about the latency and no deinterlacer. Yeah, they could have done a deinterlacer. They absolutely could have. It's not beyond their scope. And the latency is the latency. But that's going to be the debate between everyone who's analog, HD0, DJI, Walksnail, latency differences, and how much you personally are affected by latency. A lot of people aren't. The majority of people really can't tell that much between the different latency levels. They spend a lot of time talking about it and thinking about it, but when they actually go out to fly, a lot of people don't. I do sometimes. I can tell usually whenever there is a latency problem, but that's not every time for me. John Cuppy. Analog definitely won't go away as long as the digital costs $130 per quad. Yes, exactly. There are a ton of people flying analog in my Discord. War Machine, thank you for the $5 super chat. Calling my new drone Stealth Bacon. War Machine has been working on a EDF quad for a little while. Yeah, he emailed me a couple times. EDF is complicated. It's really complicated. I saw somebody else do an EDF the other day, and it was on Facebook. So if War Machine, it was you, I didn't recognize the name. But somebody did an EDF with the adjustable vias. So that was kind of the same idea. And it came out really good. Quad Mover has also done one. It looks really cool. Chris, in my opinion, the SteadyView V3 on my V2 Skyzone 04Xs did analog better than HD0 goggles simply because light sources didn't bloom like crazy with the Nano 3 TBS Fusion. I don't have that problem, but it might depend on the camera. I use a lot of run cam cameras for my analog. I don't have an issue with that on my HD0 goggles, but then I also have adjusted the brightness pretty well the way I like it. So it might depend on lighting. It might depend on the camera. There's a lot of things. And I had O4Ls and I've used O4Xs. I like the HD0 analog better than any of those. But again, personal preference. That's why FPV is great. Everybody has different preferences and we all have our reasons, and everything is viable because people use them differently. PH Pad 1, you saw a tutorial, good, and you didn't quite understand, but you'll try it anyway. Yeah, try to walk through it. Hopefully you can get it figured out, but that's going to be the best way is using your quad as the receiver for the sim, unfortunately. I understand that it's really hard to get radios outside of like FS or Fly Sky or FR Sky in some places, and getting a full Edge TX or Open TX radio that you can just USB in is not super viable for everybody. But unfortunately, with those kind of radios, the easiest way is to use a receiver as the USB source. So ENF FPV, I feel like I preferred having dedicated analog goggles and HD goggles. That's an interesting take. I like having them mixed together. Like I said, HD0 goggles, I have the antenna nightmare that these things are. Let me pull these suckers out. I have all the things on this. So this is my HD0 goggles with a Walksnail VRX and a rapid fire module on the side. And I use them for everything except DJI, because I like to have it all in one pack. But my needs are a little bit different, possibly because I have to carry every system with me every time I go fly. So carrying multiple things is a huge pain. Yeah. Anyway, that's my daily drivers for analog. I like it. Chris said HD0 cuts corners with 17.3 millimeter optics versus 20 millimeter optics. I think if HD0 did another revision of the goggles, optics would be a good place to work on. The optics are good. They're okay. I think that they could get more in line with some of the more modern digital goggles optic sets. But then again, HD0, I'm kind of surprised they ever made the goggles, considering they are just an SoC company, or HD0 isn't, but DiviMath, their parent company, is. So I'm not sure how they designed the optic sets, or who they had designed them, or if somebody in-house took their first stab at designing them. But yeah, I think a better set of optics for a V2 of those goggles, a redesign, some slight variations, and I could see them having a V2, but I assume that would be multiple years out, since it took them so long to get to this point and to get these out to everybody who bought them. So, but a new set of optics would be good. Bork Bits, oh my. I'm assuming you meant all my antennas. Yes, I look like a freaking robotic troll when I put those things on. Mystic Squash, what's up? What's up, Mystic Squash? Chris, the HD0 goggles optics are better than my Avatar V1s, but the Skyzone 04Xs were better. Skyzone is good at optics. They're very good at optics. Fat Shark, for everything that they've done, they were pretty good at optics too. DJI, though, great at optics, except for the fact that they can't seem to see the entire screen because they didn't set them back far enough. But as far as the lenses and the lens packs and the adjustments, they're all really good. I think HD0, they probably outsourced the optics creation. I don't know. I haven't asked about that. I might have to ask. I don't imagine they designed that optics pack in-house. So they probably got some, advice from someone else, or someone else designed it, and that's how they did it. But another stab at that on the V2 of those goggles would be terrific. Bitterroot says, I'm never selling my O4X. I wouldn't either. My retired Skyzone goggles are in a closet, never to be sold. and I will use them at some point. I'm sure at some point something will break, or I'll want to test with it, or my son will want to fly with them. It never hurts to have multiple sets of things when you can afford to. Some people do have to sell them. Unfortunately, I can't sell anything because I never know when I'm going to have to use it for testing. So that's why you never see me sell quads, and I have so many of them because occasionally it comes back up in a video and I just have to figure out a way to get it again. So I never actually let go of any of this stuff. Mystic Squash, you're chilling like a villain. Well, you're chilling because it's cold. It's real cold. I'm chilling too. I'm chilling a little too hard. You see me warming up my hands down here. Chris says, I actually saw I saw some got different optics on the AC0 goggles when they had the gravity issue. Yeah, I think one of my buddies that I fly with, actually, well, I'll say the only buddy that I fly with because there's no pilots around here, or used to before I moved, he had that problem with his, and I believe he had to send them back in and they put different optics in. Again, that's what leads me to believe that they tried to do it or paid someone to do it, outsourced it, and took advice because they did have issues with those optics initially. So another stab at the optics would be great for AC0's goggles. I think that, I mean, I don't know about the Walksnail goggles because I don't have them, but the Goggles X from Walksnail, Caddx, Walksnail is not an optics company. Fat Shark was, and Fat Shark designed that optic stack for the first one. So I don't know how the optic stack got designed for this one, and I hope that maybe they just took the optic stack out of the first gen and put it in this gen and resized it or did a little bit of different with it. But I hope it's good. That's all. I hope it's good. I hope people really enjoy them. ENF, I still have old Omway Commander V1s. Omways, man. Yeah, I see those floating around occasionally. Some people are still flying them, for sure. Mystic Squash, cold as funk. Yeah, dude. It's freaking freezing, and you're up further north than I am. John Coopy. I never sell my F5 Dominator V3s. Or FS Dominator V3s, it's covered in 2016 to 2018 stickers. Man, everybody did that with goggles back then, though. I have stickers all over my EV800 DMs. Like every vendor sticker I got when I first started, I smacked them on my goggles because my goggles look so stupid. So I just smacked them on there. But everybody put stickers on their goggles. Now I don't want anything on my goggles other than, large quantities of antennas. It still looks stupid, but it looks stupid for a different reason. It's technical stupid, not sticker stupid. Hush Your Mouth got their gin. Nice. Yeah, it's an awesome frame. I can't wait to build mine. I have to finish reviewing the B35 first so I can tear all of its guts out and make it into the 2.5 inch. I do have motors though. I got 1207 motors for this gin. Normally you do like 1202 and 1203. I got 1207s. That's what I'm talking about. Bitterroot says, Fat Shark Dominator for Walksnail is a nice goggle. I really like them. Yeah, I don't know where Fat Shark's going to go. We haven't seen them innovate. They tried to do the thing with Walksnail. Walksnail now has a V2 that seems to exclude Fat Shark. So I don't know where their market is. Their market might be more readily the military contract market. They are owned. They're a subsidiary now. So who knows what's going to happen with Fat Shark? I'm not a fan of buying their stuff at the moment. That's all I can think of is, right now I wouldn't invest in a new set of Fat Shark goggles is all. But if you already have them, yeah, run the crap out of them. For sure. More than upshot. Dude, you're in a garage. Start up the car and let the warm exhaust heat the room and gently calm you to sleep. I don't know, man. I don't know. That seemed really targeted. I haven't sent your prize yet, Martin. I believe you were a round 2 winner. I'm sending those this week. So you might want me to not do that until I put yours in the mail. Hush your mouth. Make a video with the 1207s when you do. I absolutely will. When I do the video for the Gin, it's going to have 1207 motors. It's going to have the SpeedyBee F405 mini stack in it and a DJI O3. So it's going to be a hell of a quad for a 2.5 inch. And those 1207 motors look funny. They're super tall, little bitty round things. They're going to look kind of stupid on there, but it's going to fly. It's going to fly real good. And it's going to be 6S. I have 450 milliamp hour 6S packs to go on top of it because why not? What's up, Nick? You're here a little bit late. That's okay. It's all good. It's only 2:54. It's only been an hour. I gotta send some of my Bamboo printers in a minute wirelessly. They're inside doing their thing, printing a bunch of stuff. I have 2 of them now. I Bamboo sent me one, so I have to do a review on it. It's nice. I like the Bamboo printers. If you haven't seen my 3D printing section of the Discord, we spend a lot of time talking about it there. But I have to remember in 5 minutes to send a new print to the printer. Gage asks, "Do you think it's possible to run the Jin, I want to say Djinn, but I know it's Jin, on 4S 1604 motor at 3800 kV with any sort of prop battery combo?" 1604s are going to be, they're going to be plenty large. 3800 kV, a little on the low side for 4S, but not on the impossible side. With any sort of prop and battery combo, you're not going to be able to run, you're going to have plenty of torque to run whatever props you want. That'll be fine. 1604 can sling them in 2.5 inches. What you're gonna have a hard time with is weight. So you want to make sure you don't go very high on the pack size. So pay attention to the weight of the pack and try to get something reasonable. I can send you some recommendations after I look at mine. I think I have some 300 and something milliamp hour 4S's that I run on similar things, but 1604s are going to be huge, plenty for a 2.5 inch. So don't worry about that. But make sure you don't go with too big of a pack, is all I'm saying. Don't put a whopping pack on there. Try to keep it, around the 50 gram mark, and you'll probably be okay. John Coopy, for Fat Shark to be relevant for hobby use, they would have to make some serious moves. Yep, not sure the holding company would be willing to throw them the capital necessary. Yeah, totally agree with that statement. They would need to invest in innovation, and they would have needed to do it 2 years ago. It's going to be tough. Going to be tough, but we'll see what they do. They might not care about this market anymore because their holding company might want them to focus on other things with other pieces of the holding company. Who knows? 1207 is bigger stator volume than 1404. Yep, it is, just by a little, just by a hair. That's why I went with 1207 versus 1404, just by a little bit. But I could have gone 1404. I just wanted to have a weird size, and I did 1207. Oh. Kirikos, hey, what's up? Been trying to watch the live, but keeps buffering. I have 500 megabits connection, so probably a problem on my side. It probably is, because it's super windy, and I'm very cold out in my garage with 2 bars of Wi-Fi out of a total of 5. The misty days like this are really bad for Wi-Fi, so yeah, I'm out here, but I'm freezing to death, if that is any consolation. Yeah, any idea when Betaflight will address the SpeedyBee F405V3 OSD and black box issue? Yes. They won't. F405 V4. It came out a few weeks ago, maybe over a month ago now. The V4 takes it from having a shared SPI for OSD and black box to individual SPI for OSD and black box, which should not be necessary. It should totally work with a shared SPI like it always has. But they did it just to make sure no one ever has the problem again. So the V4 addresses it. As far as fixing the V3, though, I find it unlikely, because HD OSD is going to exist from now on in Betaflight, that they fix it unless they disable HD OSD, which they're not going to, because people want HD OSD. So yeah, that's the crux of the issue. But V4 for sure will fix it, and it's already out, and it's 60 something bucks, I think, which sucks to flip around and change, but you could just buy the flight controller. Unfortunately, yeah. Let us be free. Murders flies the 356S with 1404 on the Jin. Yeah. Yep. That's somewhere where I'm going. I'm going to do a 456S with 1207s, and we'll see what it does. I think it's gonna fly a little awesome. The stator size is like I don't know, less than 100. I want to say, don't quote me, less than 100 cubic millimeters different between the two. It's a very small difference between 1404 and 1207, but 1207 is going to have more torque because it's a taller motor. So that's why I picked it. Yes, I wanted a weird size, but I also like the torque, so taller motors. War Machine, you've gone through 3 types of EDF motors, burn an ESC or 2, finally settle on Fly Fun 70mm EDFs, and never end up using the SpeedyBee stack. You have it for spares. Yeah, building quads with EDFs is hard. It's super hard. That's why we don't see more of them. It's so much easier just to put, brushless motors and props outside on arms than it is to put EDFs on. But it's really cool. I mean, if you make an EDF quad, if you've watched Quad Mover's EDF quad, that thing is flipping fast. And Quad Mover is some kind of inhuman line of sight pilot anyway. So he flies it around like a crazy person with EDFs, and it sounds freaking awesome. I love that quad. I would probably pound it into the ground if I tried to fly it, but he does a really good job, and they're really cool. Borkbits asked EDF, electronic ducted fan. So it's similar to a jet engine, which is a ducted fan, but it's electronic. So it's powered by a motor rather than combustion is all. Mystic Squash, good old West Texas. Yeah, it's cold, man. It's not supposed to be cold. It's only October. We're supposed to have 70-degree days. This 30-degree stuff is coming in early. Fun per volt. You bought a propane heater this morning. Now ready for cold flying. I'm going to have to buy one too. I have a bunch of those Coleman, small propane tanks, but I have no heater to put them in. I have like an oven, or not an oven. It's not an oven. It's a stove. I have a stove. It's like stovetop. But yeah, I'm going to have to buy myself a Coleman propane heater for out here. It's flipping cold. Gage asked, do you think a Whoop AO fits in the gin? Last question about the gin. No, it won't. There's no 25 by 25 mounting. Now, you can do an adapter plate with a print, but the problem is you start running into the height limit, and when you add an adapter plate, you're going to use an AIO, so there's a lot of room, but it depends on if you're trying to stack a VTX on top or whatever. You can absolutely, though, use an adapter 25 to 25 plate, and it will fit in there. It will be a little weird, but it can be done. As far as fitting in natively, though, no. It's only 20 by 20 mounting, which is why I'm going with the F405 Mini, so that I can go straight in with the mounting. I don't have to use a plate. I have used adapter plates for VTXs and other things before to go from 20 by 20 to 25 by 25 and vice versa. And they work really well. There's nothing wrong with them, but it's a lot of extra screws and nuts and things to work with when you need to take it apart. So I try to avoid it. But if you want to do that, you totally can. What's up, Free Range Chicken? Free Range Chicken is here. Free Range Chicken is a patron. I always found it interesting reading Free Range Chicken's name when I used to do the Patreon photoshopping. I used to Photoshop all my patrons into a weird scene every week. Yeah, I can't do that anymore. That was back when there were like 10 of them, though, and it was easier. Now there's like 40 or 50 of them, and I can't Photoshop that many people's names on things. Let us be free. Just watch Quad Mover's 10S build. Yeah, dude, Quad Mover's crazy. He builds some crazy stuff. I have never seen Quad Mover. I wonder what he looks like. But he is a line of sight beast. That I have no idea how he flies that well line of sight. It's insane. Insane line of sight skills. I could never. Never, ever, ever. All right. I think we're done talking about the Avatar Goggles X. I think. Unless anybody else has any other insight into them. Like I said, I'm probably never going to get a set. Cadix kind of stopped sending me things or talking to me. So, yeah, probably never going to see me get a set, and $450 to spend on them is a little too much. That's like 6 months of my FPV budget. So let us be free. Quad Mover is tan and his name is Chad. Is that serious? Are you serious? I can't imagine. He never talks either, though. So I have no visual representation of what Quad Mover looks like. All right, so what we're going to do here, I'm going to peruse Race Day Quad's new things. I like to look at new things on occasion. Let's see who has new things and what's cool. ELRS releasing some new flight controllers, a 405, $33 for a 30 by 30. It's not bad. MPU 6000, though. Everybody's trying to go back to the MPU 6000. It's like everybody's abandoned the BMI 270. I don't know why. I like the BMI 270. What's up, Nerd Copter? Yep, a daytime show. It's for the family. This is a family-friendly event. No, not really. Flywoo coming out with a TCXO receiver. That's cool. With the ceramic antenna for ELRS. I love me some ELRS. Who else is coming out with good stuff? Skystars has been putting out new flight controllers and stacks lately. MVP 60. Who was it the other day? I saw a really, really weird flight controller. I don't think it was a Skystars, though. Oh, man. They got the Uranus. Skystars has the Uranus F405. I got to try out Uranus. I'm gonna have to try that, though. just because it's named the Uranus. Morton Upshot, dangerous, looking through new things. Yeah. War Machine, tri-fan lift on a separate collective potentiometer and one pusher motor. Yes. That EDF is going to be awesome. War Machine is going to have an awesome EDF. If anybody's tried to make an EDF fan, let me know. An EDF quad. It's very rare. And War Machine's definitely doing it. And it sounds sweet. Let us be free. It's payday and looking for quad parts. Well, so am I, buddy. I'm just looking at them, though. I'm not going to buy them. There's that 405V4 I was just talking about. $69.99. Nice. Oh, my wife says start the print. Don't forget. I don't know if she meant to rhyme, but she rhymed. She totally rhymed. Okay. I gotta go to Bamboo Studio real quick and start a print. Because if I don't do it now, then it's not going to get done. Print plate. Look at this. 2 seconds. It's printing. That's how long it takes to start a print on a Bamboo printer. 2 seconds. Back to what I was doing. Okay. Gip RC sponge foam padding. Mystic Squash is looking at remote ID modules. I'm sorry, Mystic Squash. Chris says, my wife is already more useful than any girl I've known. She's very useful. She's a good woman. She keeps me in line. War Machine, how's the Bamboo? The Bamboos are great. They are terrific. I have a P1P and a P1S, and both of them are terrific. I highly recommend the P1S, though, just because I like the enclosure and the extra part fan and things like that. They print TPU amazingly. These feet, let me go back to a view where you can see it. I printed these feet in TPU on them. Let me see if I can get it to focus. And like 0 layer lines, 0 stringing, 0 anything. And the amount of effort I put into it, none. None effort. Just spit it right out perfectly. All right, back to looking. This is interesting. The Emax Tinyhawk 3 1 to 2S HD racing drone with HD0 whoop light. This is awesome. I wish that I knew anybody at Emax to send me one because I want to play with it. I still have my Tinyhawk 2 freestyle that I play with. My son's quad now. But it's awesome they're making this. $249 though. Seems a little high, but it's got digital, so what are you going to do? 12-0 2.5 motors, which are a little bit bigger than my other Tinyhawk. They seem to have redesigned the frame, which is nice. The thing I don't know is what board's in it, but it looks like it's no longer the weird, see, it's not the weird T-shaped board anymore. Looks like it's an actual, like, board. The weird T-shaped board was the only downside to that. Well, not the only. It was one of the biggest downsides of that to me. Come on, load page. There we go. Where was I? What was I doing? There we are. And you can get it as a kit. $289.99 for the analog and $499 for the digital. That's kind of high. Kind of high. Bitterroot says Infinity Loops started Whoop University today. Looks like it's going to be fun. That's awesome. Infinity Loops is a great pilot. Terrific pilot. I wish I could fly quads like Infinity Loops through little things in my garage. Man, Emax like redid their whole Tinyhawk line. They even redid the little Whoop fly lens replacement HD bracket. Extra parts. I don't know if I'd count those as new products. New Flywoo bind and flies. That's cool. This transmitter, I don't know if I'd spend $55 on HGLRC whenever I could get the Radiomaster Pocket and Clear for basically the same money. But that's cool. I'm sure they're going to put it in their kits, and that's how it's going to sell. Lots of new packs from G&B. Jeremy Stone just put a new board in his Tinyhawk the other day, Tinyhawk Freestyle 2 the other day, going outside to flight a few. I hope it works for you, buddy. I love my Tinyhawk. That little Tinyhawk 2 Freestyle has been, I used to like go to construction sites and fly it. It's a lot of fun. Camera butter. I haven't bought a camera butter ND filter in a while. I used to talk to that guy. I haven't talked to him in a minute. Should write him and see if he's got any cool new stuff. Beta FPV 722, 2 to 6 SAIO, 5.8 gigs micro, 350 milliwatt. Nah. 350 milliwatt. What are you doing here, holy bro? These wing VTXs. They seem to be popular lately. SpeedyBee has a wing VTX. 533 Champion Series motors, some stick-ins. Airbot Phoenix. Is this the one? This is the one. Okay. One of my buddies bought one of these. It is the weirdest little duck. Really, really weird little duck. Oh, Pup Gear FPV, Walksnail Goggles X, really good for anyone wanting from analog to digital. Yeah, we talked about those just a little bit ago. You missed a whole bunch about them, but I say that they are good. I don't have them. I like the upgrades they made. I think they're more future-proof than the other ones. If you want to go with a system that is not super low latency like DJI or Walksnail, they are a good purchase. Or you could do DJI V2, which is also a good purchase. But the Walksnail stuff is going to have more options than 1S. So, but for analog, it's not the best. It has it, but it's not the best. That's the summarization. Okay. This is a G4 flight controller. So this has a G4 processor and an AM32 ESC on a Whoop flight controller. 35 amps for $89.99. This is a big Whoop flight controller. Has a 10-volt BEC. But the weirdest part, it's got the ICM 42688P, which is very common now. But the weirdest part is that it has a G47X processor, which is just weird. It's super weird. My buddy had all kinds of help making this thing work. He had to manually input the gyro because it didn't auto-load the gyro drivers. And it's an AM32 ESC, which we don't see a whole lot. It's really interesting. He's going to let me borrow it. He built a toothpick out of it. And I'm going to have to check it out because that is just one of the weirdest flight controllers I've seen in a while. Pup Gear, no, I know you're not spamming. It's all good. I figured since it's identically typed, you probably typed it once and it sent it twice. No problem. Yeah, it's all good. It sent that one 3 times, Pup Gear, just so you know. Your YouTube is lagging hard. But I agree with Chris. For now, it'll work. Yeah, it'll work for analog, but it's not the best. I compare it to the AV input in DJI V2 goggles. Yes, for Walksnail. If you're going to be combining digital and analog, it's okay, but it's not the best. If you're going to be going all digital from analog, then it's a perfectly fine upgrade, as long as you want to go with Walksnail. What's up, Poodle Hawk? Good to see you. Okay, more questions. This isn't Ask Me Anything. It doesn't even have to be FPV related. We need more questions. There's not a lot of cool new products. If you looked at that list, it's pretty basic stuff. It's pretty basic. I can go read YouTube comments though. I can do that. I'm saving that in my back pocket. My fingers are too cold for typing though. That's why I haven't done it yet. I can't feel the tips of my fingers. Just the tip, but I can't feel it. Al Mac says, I'm a big fan of the G4 processor. Yeah, I haven't used it a whole lot. It's just interesting that they decided to go with that. Normally you have F-series processors or H-series processors, but the G-series I have not seen in a lot of boards. So I definitely want to play with it and see what's good and bad about it. And I'm going to borrow his because I'm not going to spend $90 on that. Ross asks, orange juice or apple juice? I like both, but it depends on the time of day. If it's the morning, I don't like orange juice. I prefer apple juice. And in the evening, I prefer orange juice over apple juice. Depends on how recently I brushed my teeth. That taste you get with orange juice after you brush your teeth is just super disgusting. And I can't do it. It makes me gross out. Also, orange juice is, if you really look into how orange juice is made and how long they store it and what's actually in your carton, it's also disgusting. Apple juice is a little less so, but I still love a good orange juice, just usually in the evening. I'm weird like that. Poodle Hawk, have you ever eaten at a Farmer Boys? I don't know what Farmer Boys is. They don't have that here. So no, I haven't, but I would, because it sounds like something I'd be interested in. I would eat like a Farmer Boy, so I assume I'd enjoy Farmer Boys. Oh. I don't know if I'd enjoy Farmer Boys. I'd enjoy eating at a restaurant called Farmer Boys. You caught me. Caught me there. Robert G, what analog module should I get for HC0 goggles? There are a couple of good ones. You can get the Rapid Fire, Immersion RC Rapid Fire. That is a great module. You can also get a TBS Fusion. There's also the Foxeer Wildfire. I would stick to the TBS Fusion or the Rapid Fire. Those are the two that seem to be the best. Some people go back and forth between the Fusion or the Rapid Fire being better in those goggles. I like the Rapid Fire. It's what's in mine, but they're both good options. It just depends on availability too. The TBS stuff has been like out of stock. at a lot of places. So rapid fire is probably the best bet, but it's going to be over $100 for sure. Chris says Race Day Quads doesn't even carry the Walksnail 1S Lite VTX and cam yet. I ordered from them most, and it's the second order from somewhere else. Yeah. Unfortunately, Race Day Quads, they usually have the new stuff, but I went up at Pyrodrone for like newest stuff. Or I go to BLheli32 for stuff that I want fast because he's in Texas. So like quick, he can get it here the next day. Like even free shipping is no more than 2 days in Texas. So, which is really nice because if I ship it from Race Day Quads or Pyrodrone, it will be at least 3 to 4 days. But yeah, I switch back and forth between Pyrodrone and Race Day for most things. So Pup Gear, if you didn't hear it, yeah, the Walksnail goggles are good for people who want to go from analog to digital. I think they are a good digital upgrade for the Walksnail system if you pick the Walksnail system as your best option. Alternatively, DJI V2 is a good, cheaper option in the same kind of price range as the Walksnail stuff. Walksnail has more options for smaller quads, though, which may push you into that limit. Then there's always HD0. But HD0 is going to be more for low latency. It depends on how pretty you want your picture to be. I think Walksnail is a good all-around place to be, and those goggles are good. I wouldn't recommend them heavily for analog, but if you want to occasionally still fly analog, they can do it with the right adapter cable and a few other things. So they're not a bad choice. I don't know if you heard that before. So War Machine, it tastes like orange NyQuil. Yes. Orange NyQuil. Global Source, fresh orange juice or bacon grease? Well, it depends. Am I making gravy? Because if I'm making gravy, then it's got to be the bacon grease. You can't make gravy in Texas. It is illegal to make gravy in Texas without using bacon grease. It's just impossible. And I like gravy. I like a good white gravy with pepper in it on some biscuits. That is the best. That is the best breakfast. Put a little bit of bacon and use that bacon grease to make gravy. Put that gravy over some biscuits and you mix it all together. Yeah. Hush Your Mouse looking at the Bamboo Mini, the A3, A4. That's a good printer too. I have not tried it. I'm still on the P series. But if you realistically for quads, you don't need a big print volume. So if you're just going to be exclusively printing for quads, the Mini is a really good price point. And seriously, they're brainless to use. Like no effort. I've never had a 3D printer with such little effort to make great prints on. And I've had a lot of 3D printers. A ton of 3D printers, and that is by far the easiest to get good quality results on. Free range chicken, I probably already answered, but how's the knee? The knee is okay, and I haven't answered. Thank you for asking. It's okay. It still hurts. It's not going to get any better till I have surgery. I don't have the MRI till middle of next month, so we'll see how that goes. But then there will be a surgical consult, and then I'll tear it up again in surgery, and then spend 6 months recovering from that. So ask me again next summer. That's probably how long it's going to last. Morquay, will I add a VTOL to my fleet? I actually got an email from a manufacturer that does a drone VTOL wing combo asking me if I wanted to try it, and they kind of ghosted me on my reply, but I thought it was really interesting. I would absolutely try one out. Yeah, I'm not going to buy one, but I might eventually fly one, and yeah, I would totally put some hours on it. I think they're really cool. Ross asks, Hispanic food or Italian food for the rest of my life? Italian food. I'm all about the noodles and the Parmesan, baby. You gotta have the noodles and the Parmesan. Anything you can put extra cheese on, like bread, I'm there. Mexican food is great, and enchiladas with cheese on top, great. I do like spicy food, but if I could only have one kind between those two for the rest of my life, it would be Italian food. Absolutely, hands down. Mattio says Defiance RC is good too. Defiance RC is good. I believe that my first HD0 stuff came from Defiance. Yeah. Yeah, they are good. They were very fast on shipping, and I did a pre-order with them, and it worked out really well. Free range chicken. Who is BLheli32? Link? I do have a link. If you guys haven't seen his store, he's a small shop, which I like to support the small shops. If I'm going to spend patron money for things, I like to do it at a place where that is well spent. So I do send money to BLheli32 for his things. My last stuff from HD0, I picked out there. because he has all that. There's a link to Valeritas. Go check him out. Bitterroot likes Progressive RC for Northwest. Yeah, Progressive RC is good. I've heard of them and have lots of experiences with them in the Discord. What's up, Booster? Fun per volt, bacon grease is better for you. Bacon grease is awesome. It's good for all the things. If I just rub some bacon grease on my knee, it'd probably feel better too. War Machine's going to lunch. Bring me a sandwich or something. I'm hungry. Oh, Bitterroot. You had a burger with bacon jam on it last week. I can't do bacon jam, man. I can't. I can't mix bacon with sweet things like bacon chocolate. Can't do it. Bacon jam? No. It's got to be just a straight up bacon. I like it crispy. A lot of people like bacon in their other things. I like just the bacon or on a sandwich. But if it's on a sandwich, I also want mayonnaise because I like cottage cheese. That means I got to like mayonnaise too. It just kind of come together. I got to be stereotypical. Curtis Hayes asks if I'm going to fly with the new law in Texas. Yes, I will fly. The law is technically not new. That law has been in place. It's basically a law stating that any aerial photography in a public place over 8 foot from the ground is illegal unless you work for the oil field or some other very specific things. It's considered like stalking, essentially. And in non-public places, you have to have permission of the landowner. So yes, I am the landowner where I fly, and I will continue to fly here because I have my own permission. I will be much more careful about public places. And luckily, I tend to fly less than 8 feet from the ground anyway. There are a couple of times where I'll pop up over it, but usually I'm not very high up in the air. So yes, I'm going to continue to fly. That rule had originally been reversed and declared non-constitutional or unconstitutional, but recently re-appealed and declared constitutional. So yeah. Let us be free. Brisket and bacon. Awesome. Yeah. Wrap the brisket in bacon, put it in a smoker, and then feed it to me. Yes. Oh. Well, my wife said that we named our printers Riff Raff and Magenta. I sent it to Magenta. I meant to clean out Magenta. I was going to print on Magenta at 3. Not Riff Raff. I wanted to print the top and bottoms. 2sec has a question. I undercharge my batteries. Some of the cells have 0 volts. Seems to be fine. Can I take out the good cells and create a battery? Would it be weak? So if you have dead cells that have run down to 0 volts in a pack, they're dangerous. So be careful. When you run voltage through a pack like that, you will pull voltage from a good cell through a dead cell. The dead cell will have superiorly high resistance, and it will heat up rapidly and to the point where it could catch fire. So don't run them like that. But I think what you're asking is if you can split them up and make new packs. A lot of people do that. It's not an uncommon thing to do if you have the right tools. Again, though, be very careful because shorting them out when you are separating them and then building new packs is very easy to do. And I wouldn't mix and match from, say you have 3 packs with different cells that are 0 volts. I wouldn't mix and match between different packs because they might have different internal resistances and different abuse to them. So you might still wind up with a weak cell somewhere in there that will eventually catch fire. So if you had like a 6S with a dead cell in it, you could make a 5S or a 4S, and that would be perfectly fine. But I wouldn't mix cells out of another pack to add to that pack, if that makes sense. I would stay within the same pack. But you totally can make new ones out of it. That's fine. And let them run their life out. The chances of you losing more cells is high if you've already lost a couple cells in the same pack already. But yeah, you totally can. Specialized hardware, be very careful. War Machine has an MRI on Monday. I get you, man. I'm waiting for mine. I wish it was sooner. Deadly M24 Indian food. I do like Indian food. I haven't had curry in a long time. That's primarily, I used to work at a place where we do potlucks, and there were a few people from India there, and they would bring traditional dishes, and I really enjoy curry, but I haven't had it in a long time. There's not like a lot of restaurants here where you can get it either, and I don't think my family would like it as much as I do. All right, let's see. I am way behind on the comments. Let me scroll down here. Steady Eddie, thank you. Says he loves my content. I appreciate you, buddy. Hobby Howie got his Grinderino from Valeritas. Awesome. Flush FPV loves a BLT. I like the B and the no and the L and the T. I like the B. I skip the L most of the time, but I definitely skip the T. I hate tomatoes. Unless it's in a paste, then I like tomatoes. But if it's not in a paste, skip the tomatoes. Booster FPV has a dilemma. Let's see. Has a marmotte frame. It flies good, but the cage is cracked in one spot where the camera and GoPro is set. I'm thinking about switching everything to another frame. Yeah, I would. A cracked camera cage like that is going to have problems with resonance in the frame. That is a rigid part of the frame designed for structural integrity. So I would definitely switch it out. The marmotte's a cool frame, though. Have you got with the marmotte is a... Who makes the beaver? That company. The company that makes it. Have you got with the manufacturer? Because they have a lifetime warranty on their frames. They might send you a new cage. You might try that. Oh, you're looking at the Catalyst Machine Works Banggood. That's a good frame. Catalyst Machine Works makes good stuff. I haven't seen a lot of it, though, because they're kind of like a boutique shop. So nobody I know has bought any of them, but they make cool stuff. They're good frames. Can I get a channel said natural law? No, that law in Texas is not natural. It's an unnatural law. Let's see. Let's see who's down here. Let's see. Workway. What do you know about SpeedyBee's embargo or blockade that's preventing them from selling fully built drones outside of China? I want to buy from them the SpeedyBee Fold DC-8, but you can't. It's not just SpeedyBee, unfortunately. If it's manufactured completely in China and shipped over, there were some restrictions in place where China was not allowed to export fully built drones, and some of the vendors were trying to skirt around that, and everybody was working on a way to get stuff over here. Some vendors send it in pieces over here, and it's assembled here. Which is how some are getting around it. But yeah, SpeedyBee, they took a while to send me this quad. It was just the frame even, and it took a while to get here. And the F405 Mini took a while to get here, and the V4 took a while to get here. Because even sending parts, they were having a hard time. But unfortunately, that is the state of the world at the moment. We're measuring IQ scores in the chat. We're measuring IQ scores. I'm not going to put mine in there. I'm not doing it. I know it, but I'm not doing it. Oh, Booster FPV says they're not up and running, so I can't get parts. Yeah, you can't get parts. The Banggood is a good frame. You can't go wrong there. It's probably a little expensive. You could probably get something a lot cheaper, but it is a good frame. Just got to the flying spot by the river. Awesome, FPV. Avery. FPV Avery. I like how it rhymes at the end. Yeah, by the river. Don't fall in the river with the quad. Don't let the quad go in the river. The quad is not a fish. Don't do that. Yeah, can I get a channel? I am way behind on the chat. I'm scrolling for ages because I read stuff and it just sits there. So then a bunch of people talk and I never see it. That tends to be how it works. I just never see it. Oh, Curtis Hay says Armatan. Yes, Armatan is who makes the beaver and the marmotte. Yeah, Armatan. Armatan makes good stuff. They also cut carbon for the Odinata, I believe. The Odinata that I have. Is it over here? I don't have my Odinata. My Odinata has disappeared. Oh, no, it hasn't. It's just small and it hides. This is my Odinata. My little Odinata. This one is from Armatan. This is the non-HD that I made HD. I also have this. I don't fly it enough. This was cut by somebody in the Discord. It's an awesome little quad. The Snowflake. Unfortunately, the AIO that I put in it was total garbage. That's not his fault, though. That's my fault. FPV, now it's definitely going in the water. I didn't mean to jinx you. Just don't let it go in the water. I meant to help you. Yeah, Booster, the Marmotte is a good frame. I had a buddy that had, he had several Armatan frames. I want to say that he lost 2 Marmottes. One went down a well. Either a well or like a trash pit. One of the two. And he lost another one in a pond. He had bad luck. And then the same guy, he bought a DJI Action 2 and put it on his quad. and it was on the Beaver, actually the same Beaver frame I have on my wall back here. The first flight out with that camera, put it in a puddle. Every time. Dude was like magnetically attracted to water with quads. Can I Get a Channel asks, what do they cut carbon with? Hydrojet, CNC machining, laser? It's really actually very easy to CNC machine, and most places CNC machine it. Carbon is not strong at the molecular level. It is strong in the flexation and rigidity level. So you can cut it really easily with tools. Water jet also can cut it really well. You cannot laser it though, because carbon doesn't burn. So if you've ever burned a frame, you're actually burning the resin and not the carbon fibers themselves. So you can't really cut it with a laser because it won't cut the carbon fibers, although it will light the resin on fire. Curtis Hayes says, just replace the carbon camera supports on my Source One with TPU. Do you think it will negatively affect its resonance? Not on the Source One. It should be fine. It has plenty of standoffs. As long as you have something in there. And TPU is actually a lot more rigid than you'd imagine. The 95A is pretty rigid stuff, even though it is flexible. And in that configuration, the compression of it isn't going to be very high. So, yeah, it should be totally fine. William N.S. has waterproof quad, goes in river. At least it was waterproof. Could be worse. War Machine asks, how often do I print frames as opposed to buying them? Almost never. Honestly, I don't print a lot of frames. I'm going to start, though. I'm going to do a whole series about printing your own frames. I'm also going to include some things about cutting your own carbon frames. That is really interesting, because you'd be surprised how many open source versions of frames there are out there that you can just cut at home with a $100 CNC machine. There's a lot, and there's some good ones. And you can have as many arms as you want. It's just up to you. Oh, you broke an arm? Come home, cut a set. You're done. You don't have to wait for a manufacturer at all. And carbon sheet is very available. It's kind of expensive, but it's very available. And you can get a lot of arms out of a carbon sheet. So I'm actually going to do a whole series about making your own frames at home. And not too long, probably later in the winter, whenever it gets really cold and I don't want to fly so much. But yeah, it's coming. War Machine printed a CNC so you could cut frames. Yeah, you can print your own CNC. I am not. I'm going to go with a cheap Sane Smart because I want to make it available. If somebody wants to do it, I want to be able to pick up the same stuff and not have to have any technical aptitude to assemble it. Because you know it's a lot easier to run the thing than it is to build one. So they can buy a cheap one off Amazon. They can buy the carbon sheet off Amazon and cut their own. And I'm going to see if it's worth doing and tell you if it is or not. It might not be. It might be total garbage. We'll have to see. Yeah, Chris says you can make your own sheet fairly easily. You can also do molds with 3D prints. Yep, you totally can. It's not a mystery. I mean, carbon fiber is pretty simple. The hardest part about making your own sheet is getting consistent thickness. But if you set it up the right way and you clamp it correctly, it can be done. Totally can be done. And you can buy carbon fiber roll pretty cheaply, and you can do your own twill layout, and you can put resin in it. It's all pretty base components. We just overpay for it. William N.S., $100 CNC machine. I want to know more. It's not very big. I forgot the model number, the one I'm looking at, but it's like $100 on Amazon. And it doesn't take a lot to cut carbon. You're not going to be cutting like 8mm carbon in one pass. It's probably going to be like 3 passes, so there's a little time involved. But that's fine because you're going to cut it at home for a lot cheaper than getting arms shipped to you. And you can make stuff the same day. Can I Get a Channel has been using Trappy stuff, Source Ones, lots too. I break a lot of stuff. Yeah. And Source One, if you have a Source One V5, something like that, or V4, or V3, whatever, it's an open source. That's why it's called Source. So you could cut your own arms at home and not have to worry about it. And I have bought Source One parts that were not cut correctly from a manufacturer. I remember I bought 3 or 4 Source One frames from Pyrodrone in 2 different orders. And in order 1, everything was fine. All the holes lined up. In order 2, the top plate holes right behind the camera mount were like 3/4 of a millimeter wrong. And you couldn't get the thing together. It just would not work. And that was manufacturer cut. So at least if it was at home, I could blame myself. Can I Get a Channel? Breathe deeply when you're cutting it. No, don't breathe deeply when you're cutting carbon. Don't do it. John Coopy, I wouldn't want to deal with cutting at home. Definitely have to be careful. CF dust is as bad as asbestos. Yes, you have to be careful. Absolutely. I have respirators. Respirators are fairly cheap. So you just have to use a respirator while cutting and then thoroughly clean your work area. It is an added thing to do, though. So that's all going to be covered in that video. I'm not going to recommend anybody huff the carbon dust. Chris got 10 foot by 3.3 foot of twill for $80. And I forgot how many layers it would take to make something like a 4mm carbon sheet. But it's a lot less than you think. You can get a lot of sheet out of rolled carbon twill if you're willing to do a lot of work. It's not trivial. You got to do a lot of work and set it up correctly and spend a lot of time to get it right, but you paid very little for it. Nerdcopter had a press nut pressed in and shifted, so he had to force align the build on an S1V5. Yeah, it seemed like the build quality was not great there for a while. They were also running out of stock, so I'm assuming they were like trying to source from different CNC companies, and some were better than others. Because again, nature of that frame, it's not one company cutting them all. They just all wind up in the same bag. What's up, Spido? Good to see you. Robert G. Carbon cutting is usually milled underwater. It can be. Yeah, totally can be milled underwater. My recommendation for at home, obviously it's going to be hard to mill underwater, is to print a shroud for the mill with a brush and a vacuum. And you try to vacuum as much dust out with a HEPA certified vacuum as you can. But also to always utilize a respirator when it is on and when you're working with any of the cut material until you have fully cleaned it. Because, yeah, carbon dust is not good for the lungs. There's a reason why miner's lung exists. Same thing. Hush your mouth. Analog mod on DJI V2 any good? It's okay. I don't like analog on the V2 goggles. I don't. It has some delay in the image processing, and the quality. Analog goggles they look so much better than analog in on V2 goggles. It will do it. It can happen, but it's not something I would not daily drive it. It's not my preferred thing. I'm doing good, Spido. Thank you for asking. Thank you. It's an hour and 36 minutes of me talking so far, and I'm starting to get kind of dry. And my finger, I have not been able to feel my fingers for the past 45 minutes. It is super cold in here. I have a little heater running, but it is not able to keep up. Chris says 3D printer tint enclosure for milling. The fibers stay in the lungs for life, I believe. Yeah, your body won't process carbon because it's made of carbon. So it stays there and it irritates your lungs, and that becomes a problem. It's not that it's technically toxic. It's that it irritates your lungs and it can't be absorbed. So it's like fiberglass, which is not technically toxic, but irritates your lungs. It can't be absorbed. And that irritation can cause other things to happen around the irritation site. So yeah, it does stay for life. You can absolutely do an enclosure. There's all kinds of things, and I'm going to cover a large portion of them before I tell anybody if it's worth doing or not, because you really have to consider all of that. I do think if you have the time, the space, the money, and the availability, it can be done, and it can be done a lot cheaper than you paying manufacturers to do it. Plus, you can do your own designs, and you can experience designs that aren't sold in stores, which is kind of nice. But there's a lot of precaution you have to take, and you have to be willing to do it all. So definitely something we're going to cover. Bitterroot says, I like to build a large prop sub 250 toothpick. 4-inch props on the sub 250 toothpick. I have 3-inch props on mine. 4-inch props would be really cool. Makes me want to do it now. Morton Upshot asks, I know you don't push affiliate links, but do I have any? I don't. I have no affiliates anywhere. I've never even asked about the programs. The only place I have one. The only place I have affiliate links is Amazon, because Jeff Bezos' money is basically anybody's. And if you're going to buy it at Amazon anyway, then who cares if it comes from Jeff Bezos' pocket? What I won't do is take money out of any FPV pocket or vendors or manufacturers, any of that. But like if I'm going to sell you a screw set at Amazon, then I have it in case I wanted to, but I never actually use them. And I couldn't tell you what it is off the top of my head, or I'd have to go look it up. War Machine asks, on some smaller drone frames, couldn't you just use aluminum? There are some frames that utilize aluminum and titanium, and it's totally doable, especially smaller, lighter ones where you're not going to have problems with bending. Because carbon will bend and then go right back to where it came from. Aluminum won't. It's soft enough where it will bend and stay there. So you have to constantly correct the straightness of your frame, which is a problem with quad frames. As far as resonance characteristics on a small quad and strength, not too big a deal. Light, not too big a deal. Yeah, it's mostly about the bending. You have to keep an eye on that. Gauge Manure asks, do you think spike absorbers are necessary? How about dual capacitors? No, it's not necessary. If you have a proper sized cap, just a single proper sized cap, I mean, a TVS diode is an insurance policy. That's what a spike absorber is a TVS diode. It's an insurance policy, but it's not a guarantee. So if you feel better about it, that's all. You're buying peace of mind. When you put one of those on there, you're buying peace of mind. If it makes you feel better about it, that's terrific. It's worth the money to you then. You don't have to, though. It's not a necessity. A capacitor is a necessity. You should always have a capacitor, if for nothing else but keeping your gyro traces clean. But a TVS diode is not a necessity. You can totally skip it if you want. What's up, Fly Tribe Magazine? Good to see you in here. You're doing really well, man. I have seen Fly Tribe Magazine all over the place lately. Big thing. It's really cool. I am going to have to get me some editions of that. I haven't tried it out yet, but yeah, I hear really good things, and I see a lot of stuff. Amazon requires affiliate active minimum. Oh, else you get removed. Well, then I'm probably removed. I have never once sold anything with an Amazon affiliate link, even though I did sign up for that program. Yeah, I have never included them in a video or anything. I think I sent one once in Discord, and I'm like, hey, this is an affiliate link. It's coming out of Jeff Bezos's pocket. And I don't think anybody bought anything. So, yeah, it's probably gone, I would assume. Oh, awesome, Fly Tribe. Yeah, DM me. I'd love to talk to you. Can I get a channel? Cap as a filter. Yes. You have to have a cap as a filter. A cap is highly recommended. You must have cap. TVS diode you must not have, but you can have. I don't know why I wanted to say it in like 3-word sentences. Can I get a channel? Is Jeff Bezos the richest man? I don't know. Is Jeff Bezos still the richest man? I don't think he is. Who is richest man? Let me Google this. Elon Musk. Let's see. Oh, yeah. As of that article, Elon Musk. But the second picture next to Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. And he's just going to build a rocket. Both of them are going to build rockets with it anyway. I mean, come on. John Coopy, put Bacon Ninja on the next Fly Tribe cover. You'd never sell a single copy, even digitally. If you put my picture on the front, nobody's coming for it. That's the opposite of good marketing strategy. I would love to read it though. Yeah, I have looked at subscribing to it several times. However, I'm always broke because lately I'm 3D printing things for review, and although they send me a 3D printer, they don't send you anything else, so the money goes somewhere. William NS says Musk. Yes, very musky. The richest man is Musk. It's interesting. It's interesting when you have that much power and money. How many people pay attention to you? I wouldn't want that many people paying attention to me. I think I'll stay broke. But I will say I have used Starlink several times in several occasions, and I do like Starlink. What I don't like about Starlink is the fact that it puts a lot of satellites in orbit around the Earth. We already have enough space junk up there. If you've never seen how much space junk the Earth has floating around it, you should look at a map of it. It is pretty freaking insane. It's like, how do we even see the stars? Luckily, the Earth is gigantic, and space is even bigger than that. So it's minuscule in comparison. But if you look at the map, it's pretty dense. It's pretty dense. We basically are carrying around our own floating garbage heap, just like everything humans do. War Machine says a book called Drones with Bacon, with a side of bacon. That could be, if I was ever going to write for a magazine about FPV, it would be an op-ed article section called Side of Bacon. I used to write for newspapers, actually. My wife and I both did. I had a business where I ran my own IT consulting firm, and the small newspaper in that town let me write technical articles for them. So I would write like a a little technical, noob-friendly how to use computers section of each paper, and it was actually very helpful for some people. I miss doing that. FPV Avery, my old ISP was 10 megabits. That's not even bytes. Use a lowercase b. 10 megabits max. Can I get a channel? Even the sky is littered. Yes. I remember the old days of having AT&T DSL at a whopping 8 megabits per second. I have gigabit connection at my house. It's still in the middle of nowhere, but I have gigabit up and down here. It's synchronous gigabit. And it is awesome. And it means that I can upload a 14 gig video, which most of my videos are roughly 14 gigs exported, in about, I don't know, under 10 minutes, usually under 10 minutes. And it processes in about 30 minutes, which is nice. Sully asks, how to identify USB controller chip on F405 flight controller? That's interesting. I would have to go look up. I'm not sure if the F405 processor doesn't have its own USB controller built in. I want to say USB is actually just hosted by UART on the F405 and not necessarily a separate USB controller, because it's a device capable of processing those signals. But I would have to go look that up. That's a good question. I have not tried to find one on a board yet. Let us be free. Yeah, we're not talking about the richest in the world, because there are people that are seriously rich outside of the United States. For sure. John Coopy, who remembers AOL? Good old 56K. I remember my first time on the internet. I used to have a Toshiba satellite laptop that was like that thick, and it had a pop-out 56K modem. Not pop-out as in like a card. Like it had a little door where an RJ11 jack would pop out, and you put your little phone jack in there. You dial straight on up to the AOLs, and then whenever you get done burning up the CD of free minutes you had, you go get another. I don't think we ever paid for AOL. Morton Upshot. My dad refuses to give up his AOL. You would be surprised how many people still have an AOL email address. It's not even serviced by AOL anymore because it doesn't exist, but they won't let go of the email address. That was the worst thing AOL ever did, was give people email addresses, because you can't take them away once you've given them to somebody. Sully says you swapped MCU IMU. So you swapped the F-Series chip on a board? That's interesting. Super interesting. Let us be free. I love I love your Wi-Fi password. It hurts when I pee. Yeah. My Wi-Fi is Winternet is coming. That is my guest Wi-Fi. And my primary Wi-Fi is it hurts when I pee. Because why not make it funny? People are going to see them. Ethixi, I don't know if it's the cable or some update, but DJI Fly app no longer shows video. I'm using O3 and V2 goggles, rooted, maybe why. It shows on my Android waiting to open File Explorer and Pigeon. Are you're talking about using the DigiView app, I suspect. I have had issues with DigiView. I have rooted goggles. I would try a different cable. I'm pretty sure the issues I had were because of the cable, and I wound up having to use. It came with my goggles too, but it's basically just a USB-C host adapter to USB-C on my phone and a USB-A to C cable on the goggles. I couldn't use a C to C directly. It would not work correctly. So you might try a different cable, and you might try using an A to C with a host adapter. That seemed to work best for me. Chris had a hard time switching from AOL's built-in browser to Internet Explorer. Man, that little pyramid with the eye floating around on the right side of the browser. I still remember that. You have mail. That was like, I was in middle school. It was like formative years for my youth playing on AOL. Oh, my printer's are ready again. That's awesome. Let me show you how easy this is. Let me show you all how easy it is to send this to the printer. I need to share screen. Present. Stop screen. Present. Share screen. I'm going to share Bamboo Labs. There we go. Share. Okay. I've already sliced the file. There it is. Sliced it. All I have to do is go to print plate, pick the printer, send. Oh, look, it's going to send. That's it. It's going now. And then it's going to switch over and show me video of the printer. Because it does that. And then I'll get to see the printer start up. You can see the inside of my printer box. I'm going to show you my insides. Board and Upshot used to go war driving back in the day. Oh, man, that's fun. I remember cracking a bunch of WP keys because WP keys were so insanely easy. Oh. There we go. Will it not show you the... Oh, it shows you the video now. There's the inside of my printer doing printery things. All right, we don't need to look at that anymore. I used to crack a bunch of WP keys back in the day. That was a good time. Robert G, my first home internet was CompuServe. Man, CompuServe. I remember that too. Dang. Who remembers Netscape? Yeah, man, Netscape Navigator, that was the shiz. I'm such an old nerd. I'm such an old nerd. Sully says, yeah, 400 air. I think caps are pull down resistor. I need schematic. Yeah, probably a pull down resistor. But a schematic, yes, you're going to need a board diagram of that thing to really dig into a problem with it. Because, yeah, you're going to need a board diagram and all the specifics of the MCU to figure out why the pin isn't doing what it should be doing, but probably a pull down resistor. Sully, DOS 5.0. My first computer ran DOS, and I played pinball games on it. You had to put the floppy disk in, run a DOS command, and then it would play pinball. I think it had something like a, I don't know, 8 megabyte video card in it. It's super crazy back in the day. War Machine remembers when we were excited for the first Pentium processors. I remember slot Pentiums, the P2s that had the slots. Super weird form factor. Glad we don't do that anymore, but I tore apart a lot of old processor machines, and it always interested me how AMD like literally just flat out copied Intel after they stopped having rights to produce Intel chips, and they were the exact same socket and everything. It was pretty crazy, but I remember messing with that stuff. Steady Eddie, but does anyone remember ICQ? I do. I remember that too. Fixie, is it normal to have a little spark sound when plugging a 4S battery in XT6 or 30 XT30 plug? Yes, it is totally normal. XT plugs are designed to be spark arresters because they intend to be sparked. There's so much current deliverable from a LiPo pack that just pulling the initial current to charge up your capacitor and start up the board does cause a spark. So it's not uncommon at all to have a spark. However, your XT plugs, and that's why we use XT plugs there, are designed with spark arresters so that it doesn't cause a problem. But yes, totally normal. Curtis Hayes, my bamboo AMS died 5 days after getting it. I will not have the AMS. Not even going to review it. I don't think that's worth having. Just for that reason. Everyone who has a problem with their bamboo printers, it's most of the time the AMS. Almost always it's the AMS. So yeah, I'm not even going to let them send me one for review. No, I don't want the AMS. Not going to do it. More upshot. Atari 1200 XL. I have you've got me. I've never played on a physical Atari. That was before my time. The first gaming console I ever owned was an OG Nintendo NES. That I remember playing on a whole lot. A lot of Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. But Atari was before me. You got me. Ryan James, thank you so much for watching the videos. I recommend the SpeedyBee F405 V3 stack. Is the newer one still going to work? Yes, it is. And the pin layout's the same. I'd highly recommend the V4 over the V3 if you're going to build it today. And the price is basically the same as it was when I recommended the V3. So absolutely, totally. William NS, I just got Goggles 2, got Max Comfort foam, but corners are still blurry. I think I need my eyes closer to the screen. Any foam recommendations? I haven't found any good ones that don't cause the same problem. I kind of like the stock, but I'm weird like that. The silicone on there is not for everyone. What you can do if you have blurry edges is adjust the zoom in the goggles. I mean, you're going to have a smaller FOV and you're not going to utilize the whole screen, but you can adjust the zoom in the goggles. I know there are some other face foam options, but most of the foams are going to be kind of big and padded, hence the foam, and they're going to push your eyes back. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is a problem with those goggles. Fixie, is it right to always charge at 1S speeds like 0.7 for 720 milliamp hour and also storage discharge? So yeah, 1C, you mean 1C. So 720 milliamp hour will be 0.7 amps for a 1C charge. I always highly recommend you charge at 1C. There are people that could tell you it will go up to 2C and 3C if you're in a real hurry. 1C is the safest. I would stick there. So 0.7 is right for that. As far as discharge, LiPo packs can discharge much faster than they can charge. That's just the nature of a LiPo. However, you're going to be limited by your charger's ability to discharge. So there's a little resistor in the charger, and it's normally limited. Like my, I don't have it on my workbench, but my Hoda D6, I can discharge it half an amp on a 6S pack, half an amp. I can go up to 1 point something amps on lower packs. I do, however, tend to just put my charger on a storage charge cycle with the same C rating that I charge with, which is perfectly fine. Just do it that way and you'll always be safe. So yeah, I'd charge and discharge at 0.7 for that pack. Oh yeah, Chris, your friend had a main board die on his bamboo. Yeah. The Voron's good. Voron's great if you want to build a printer. Voron is terrific. That was kind of a streak. Bamboo is very new, and some of their earlier printers had mainboard problems. I have not had any, and I have about 400 hours on one printer and 300 hours on the other one now. And I've not had any problems with hardware at all that weren't my fault. I did put the bed in wrong a couple times. I have done stupid things, but I have not had any physical hardware problems or software problems, and I've only had one failed print out of literally hundreds that I've done so far. Morton Upshot, old fart. You're not an old fart, Morton. It's okay. I feel you. MASH. What is my favorite 5-inch frame? Currently, my favorite 5-inch frame is the Quadmula Siren F5 Split Mini. I like the lightweight, and I like how much power it has for my flippy flops. It's not for everybody because it's going to be less good at crashing than something like the Siren F5, but there are a lot of other good options. If you want to bash, Bot Grinder always has the Demibot. That's a great basher. The Volador, great basher for 5-inch. I like the Agile flippity flops, and for Agile flippy flops, I am all about the Siren F5 Split Mini. That's a great frame for it. Yeah, William NS says the ISDT FD200 is worth every penny for discharging packs. Yeah, you can discharge packs a whole lot faster if you have a higher discharge amp rating. It gets hotter. I mean, there's some safety limits on the top end, but in reality, and with the Hoda D6s that I have, the D6 Pro, I could actually plug a resistive coil to the back and discharge out of a resistive coil and do it a whole lot faster. I just don't. Yeah, I just use the built-in and let it set. It might take a little while. My glasses keep sliding off. Well, it's 3 minutes to 4 and I am freezing to death. So in a minute here, I'm going to quit. But until then, I will continue to read your comments and try to get as many as I can in. For quad's sake, you got ELRS working today? Nice. Nice. The first time is always hard. Well, not always. Some people have a really easy time with it. They just get lucky. But if you have a really hard first time, it's not uncommon and don't feel bad. If you probably heard that same advice about other things in life. Spido OP, I want to buy budget goggles. Can you suggest one? What kind of budget are you talking about? If you're talking about super low budget, I would go with Eachine EV800s or 800 DMs. If you're talking about mid-budget and all the features of a goggle and you don't mind box goggles, the SkyZone Cobra X is a great goggle for the price. OLED screens, 1080p resolution, or 720p resolution. I don't think it's 1080p. Really, really good. And then above there, you're into the $400 and $500 price points. That's kind of my tiering. I start with the EV800s, then the Cobra X if you don't mind box goggles. If you do mind box goggles, then you might look at the SkyZone O2Os. They're okay, but lower resolution. And then from there on, the SkyZone O4L, the HE0 goggles, O4X, all the mainstream goggles are in the $400 or $500 price range. Free range chicken. Been working so much, no time for FPV. Yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. Fill me on the Texas 8-foot thing. Is anybody really concerned about it? Is FPV without a GoPro still considered? Yes. FPV without a GoPro is still considered aerial photography as long as you're taking DVR. And in a public place, any height over 8 foot is technically stalking. It's technically surveillance at that point, which if anybody wanted to press, they totally could, and you could be charged. It's stupid, but it is what it is. And yes, people still fly. So it just depends on what you're doing. They've been using that law a lot to target media, like media coverage of things with drones. So far, I haven't heard of any FPV pilots having the problem, but they totally could if they wanted to. If you met the right Karen, it could happen. Unfortunately. Chris said, I wish someone made a super high-end box goggle. The Cobra X is about as high-end as I've ever seen it, but I don't mind box goggles. I mean, I look stupid anyway. Even slapping like this monstrosity of antennas on my face, I look stupid anyhow. So why not look stupid in a more comfy goggle? There's nothing wrong with a box goggle. I agree. I would totally be in for super premium box goggles. I like bananas FPV. You have no question. You just want to say thank you. I appreciate that. You're very welcome. And yes, got to go to Bardwell, man. Can't forget about Bardwell. I haven't made nearly as many videos, and he has covered a ton more topics. Oh, Spido, ESC and EV800 are not for myopia. Yeah, it's going to be hard with special eye conditions. I have an astigmatism, and the EV800 DM were a little blurry for me. But when it comes to budget options, there's just not a lot that are going to be able to correct for that. Unfortunately, your first goggle that you're going to be able to correct for that is something probably like the SkyZone O2Os, and you're going to have to get aftermarket third-party manufactured lenses, which is going to make them pretty expensive in the first place. Thanks, Free Range Chicken, for the $9.99 super chat. And you're very welcome for the stream. I'm going to keep doing them. I told you guys I would try to keep doing them. I skipped it last week. I was sick all week. So, yeah. But thank you very much, Free Range Chicken. And yes, I'm not sure why that was a question mark either, but you did put it. All right, everybody. It is 4:01. I appreciate it. I'm sorry if I didn't get to the rest of your questions. Dinner is calling my name in that house over there, and I'm going to go find it. Plus, it is now 27 degrees in here, and I am colder than I was when I started. I don't know how much more I can take it. But thank you all so much for hanging out on the live stream. I appreciate you being here. It has been a good time. Next time, we might build the Jinn. I'm thinking on the next live stream, I will have all the parts together and in place to build the Jinn, and we can do that together. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Look out for that. It should be next Sunday at 2 p.m. So anyway, thank you all. Have a good Halloween. Go get yourself some candy. Keep it greasy, and I'll catch you later.